Todd Howard just spoke out about Fallout 76's launch. Now, we all suspected that Bethesda and their leadership knew that the game wasn't ready for launch. After all, how could you not? It was and is filled with glitches and balancing issues. It just simply wasn't ready for launch. And after a recent interview, Todd explained and confirmed exactly what I theorized back in November when the game launched. Now, if you weren't subbed to my channel back then, no worries. Not many people were. Sad face. So I'll reiterate what I said at the time. Basically, it seemed as though Bethesda didn't really care about the current state of the game, that is, the state of the game on November 18th, 2018, because they figured that they would fix any and all issues that they encountered later through external patches and the like. After all, this is the exact same philosophy that they've employed for over a decade at this point. Their games are always bugged to high heaven, and they or their fans patch out the problems later. And to be honest, I can't really blame them for doing this for Fallout 76. And I know what you're saying. How can you not blame them? Are you approving of their anti-consumer practices? Are you the devil? Why are you so attractive? Blah, blah, blah. Listen, we, the gamers, gave Bethesda a pass for this for years. Oblivion, Fallout 3, Skyrim, and Fallout 4 all had massive technical issues at launch, and some of them still have problems that were never fixed. Heck, some of these problems are still in the games after being re-released, like with Skyrim Special Edition on PS4. I ran into a game-breaking bug while playing it for an upcoming critique known as the CE-34878-0 bug. Catchy, I know, and the only way that I could fix it was by unplugging all external devices and signing out of PlayStation Plus before launching the game. Yeah, I don't know why that made it work, but it did. Point being, Bethesda hasn't polished their games in a very long time because they haven't needed to. I mean, ask yourself, why polish anything? Sure, we're here to talk about video games, but what about your car? Why clean out your car before trying to sell it? Well, likely because you want it to look its best, and if it's dirty and gross, it won't sell for as high a price or at all. But what if the person you were selling your car to were blind and unable or unwilling to effectively punish you for not cleaning the car before sale? You probably wouldn't bother cleaning it because after all, what's the point? If your customer won't punish you, no one will. This is exactly why Bethesda thought they could do the same thing with Fallout 4 and 76. Fallout 4 had a lot of bugs, and people would have looked past them again if the game underneath were more in line with their expectations. In other words, if the core game were fantastic, it wouldn't have been a major issue, just like Skyrim and Fallout 3. But Bethesda didn't feel this heat on their bottom line because Fallout 4 still sold fantastically well, all things considered. On paper, they had gotten away with it again. But the community was bitter and skeptical, and so when 76 launched with all the same issues and once again without the underlying game that people wanted, gamers let Bethesda know with an unprecedented groundswell of criticism. And this brings us to the recent interview that Todd gave to IGN. Todd was discussing the current state of the industry and his studio when he was asked the most pertinent question of all. What the f*** happened with Fallout 76? And he answered in exactly the way that I thought he would. He said, quote, "We knew we were going to have a lot of bumps. We were ready for them. We knew this is not the type of game that people are used to from us, and we're going to get some criticism on it, and a lot of that is very well-deserved criticism." And when he was asked whether Fallout 76's launch had dealt any lasting damage to Bethesda's reputation or to the Fallout name in general, Howard said, quote, "I'm sure it had some. It would be naive to say it had zero, but I think if people come to the game now, they'd be surprised," end quote. And let me just say, I've been playing some Fallout 76 and I am surprised. I agree. I'm surprised at how bad it is even after 6 months, but I digress. He went on saying, quote, "We felt strongly that this is a game we want to play. This is something we really want to do, and all of the games like this, there's a difficult period when you launch. It's not about how you launch, it's what it becomes, and I couldn't be prouder of the team that's worked on it," end quote. So he says the same thing he's been saying for years, that Bethesda's games shouldn't be judged on how they launch, but what they become. which at the outset sounds nice. It makes you want to sit around a campfire singing Kumbaya while giving your next door neighbor a sturdy thigh rub, but it's the same justification they've been using since Oblivion to justify rushed releases and a lazy QA process. And it's no mystery that quality assurance is expensive and extends the game's release window significantly, but if you want to release a game that you're proud of, you shouldn't care. And this pride in their releases seems noticeably absent recently. Sure, there's some stuff in 76 that shows some members of the studio put a good number of hours in and paid attention to detail in certain areas. But the fact that the game launched in the state that it did, and that Bethesda's studio director is still saying it's not about the product they launch, but about the product they cultivate after they've taken your $60 and are no longer accountable to you, all just shows that Bethesda hasn't learned their lesson. Now, I can normally decipher what's going on behind the doors in these companies. I study corporate finance all day in class, and usually these companies are just transparently chasing an enlarged bottom line. But with Bethesda, it's different. It isn't a proactive chase. It's a meandering, half-assed pursuit. It's almost exactly like a kid I went to high school with who clearly peaked back then and is now living at home trying to make a career out of custom-painted bong sales. Hashtag Colorado. They peaked with Skyrim, tried to tap into that magic while shaking it up in Fallout 4 and playing their old tricks, and tried to do the same thing to an even crazier extent with Fallout 76. And they failed. Seriously, we should all be worried about Starfield because I can't spin this Bethesda news. I can't make sense of it. It proves to me that they're a company of dispassionate managers and no longer a studio of artists. It's the end of an era. Bethesda hasn't learned their lesson, and as long as that's the case, they're not going to win back any fans, or at the very least, not me.